Look at the crowded, sir. The number of refugees is astonishing.
Welcome to On Assignment
with Eli and Patricia. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about changing the soul of a nation. And what we're going to do is try to break it down for you in 3 parts.
Yes.
What it is, how it began, and how it affects.
We will try to keep that. I will try to keep that in mind to follow that timeline. Are you guys ready for the invasion? Did you know that America is currently in the process of being invaded, and not as we originally thought an invasion would take place? But it's interesting because what's happening, a lot of people have touched on, I've come across a lot of different perspectives in terms of what this immigration crisis is about. And coming to the end of Title 42, a lot of people have been speculating what will be the ramifications of it. Something that I don't think was touched on nearly enough was something that the Lord laid on my heart a couple of weeks ago, and it was about changing the soul of this nation. And what the Lord was showing me is about what it really takes to destroy a nation like America, and really nations all across the globe, and why this immigration agenda has been such a paramount plan for these global elites. It has nothing to do with humanitarian efforts and helping people find asylum. What we find going on is a very satanic and a demonic agenda that covers many different facets. But at the same time, the overarching goal of this is absolute destruction. And so when you look at changing the soul of America, when that was laid in my heart, one of the things that was impressed upon me was how every country has an identity. There is an identity and a makeup and almost like a spirit, if you will, that identifies every country. Where is the reason why you see so many people take pride in where they come from, or their places of origin. Why they take pride in it? Because there is something about that nation that they carry with them, that's resounding in them. And while immigration has been a long-standing thing for the most part with America, one of the things that was synonymous with about immigrants coming over, people wanting to come over, was to have the American dream, right? There was and what that really means is I want to go in and I want to assimilate. I want to be a part of that. Right. And so it has nothing. It's not about just immigration in itself and people wanting to come to America, not to subvert what America is all about, but people wanting to come to America to participate and to be a part of all the things that America is about, all the things that makes America a wonderful country and a place to live. But this immigration agenda is completely different. Something completely different, and that's what we're going to be getting. That's what we're going to get into as we move forward in this video.
And as my husband says, it is not something new, but this is a planned migration. Let's look at the UN's Agenda 2030.
Migration is a global reality. There are an estimated 281 million people living outside their country of origin. Over 49 million, 18% of the world's migrants and displaced people, live in the Arab region. If well governed, migration can be an engine of economic growth, innovation, and sustainable development. In 2018, to strengthen international cooperation on migration and protect the well-being of migrants, the UN General Assembly adopted the first intergovernmentally negotiated agreement on migration, the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. The GCM defines 23 objectives covering all aspects of migration with an array of actionable commitments and is based on a set of 10 cross-cutting and interdependent guiding principles. Its implementation is led by states. but it requires cooperation with all relevant stakeholders at the local, national, regional, and global levels. The GCM is deeply rooted in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It recognizes that migration is a powerful driver of sustainable development for migrants and their communities. Effective implementation of the GCM brings the promise of ensuring the well-being of migrants and enabling them to become active agents of development. However,
So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, why in the world did the UN adopt an immigration agenda?
An immigration agenda from the UN. Listen, I am of the persuasion that anything that comes out of the UN, I don't want no parts of.
2 thumbs down.
Okay. Right? I am of the persuasion that if it comes from the UN, if it comes from these global consortiums, I don't want anything to do with it. It is going to be satanic with the to the core. And you know what I found interesting about this? It's almost like something I thought of while I was watching this video, is how they would tell manufacturers, don't make rat poison look all pretty, look all attractive to children. You have to make the box with skulls and bones, and you gotta, make it look, a certain way so that it doesn't look colorful, doesn't look like a bag of Skittles, right? This is poison. This is this is national poison, social economic poison, dressed up in nice bright colors and like a Skittles bag, like, oh yeah, this is fantastic. And so if somebody was just happened to stumble across Agenda 2030, they were thinking like, wow, you know what? Yeah, we really gotta support immigration. I don't know why, and not really understand the detrimental assignment or demonic agenda behind this thing. It is like poison packaged in a very child-friendly package. The outrage, I mean, and it really, like, if people knew what was going on, they'd obviously be outraged. But most people don't understand what's happening now, right? And so they'll be outraged later, right, when it starts to touch them. And we're seeing that now. The thing about this Agenda 2030 is that it is something that the familiar faces, I would say,
right? The
familiar faces have taken a major role in reshaping this country and others around and other people around the world, but really shaping. The familiar faces have taken a major role in reshaping this country to reflect this new world order agenda and the things that are happening as a result. We haven't even come to see the tip of the iceberg of disastrous plans that they have for this country.
Yeah, and not only do they want to destroy this country, but they're also destroying everybody with it. They're even using the people that they're bringing over here for a destructive plan. And so it's really hard to see. And it's always the usual suspects. So we found this article from Just the News, and it says Obama, Bush, and Clinton have started an NGO to fly migrants into the U.S. American Express, Global Business Travel, and Welcome.US have reportedly teamed up with former presidents Obama, Clinton, and George W. Bush's non-governmental organization, or NGO, called Miles for Migrants, to fly migrants to communities across the U.S. Now, for those of you that don't know what an NGO is, it's a non-governmental organization, and it has no fixed or formal definition. They are generally defined as a nonprofit entity dependent of governmental influence.
So we mentioned the usual suspects, right? Because in our previous video, we were talking about, we made mention of those who were part of this new world order structure that has been underway for many, many years. For many, many years. The ultimate goal is to get to this one world government, this one world order. We already know that, right? But there are people who have been put in place to further the agenda. And there are those who come along to upset the agenda. But we won't go into that right now, right? But when you look at this, this NGO, that my wife was referring to, in this article, you see that it's the same Bush, Clinton, and Obama.
Correct.
Bush, Clinton, and Obama starting a nonprofit organization with the specificity to fly immigrants in to United States communities. Now, why would that be necessary?
Why would it be?
Why would that be necessary? Now, once you realize that they have a Luciferian an agenda, you realize that this can't be anything good for us.
No.
And I think initially what they use to propagandize people is to say, hey, you know what? You don't care about people. These people are fleeing oppression.
Right.
They're seeking asylum, and you're just racist if you don't want to let nobody in. It's like, no, that's not the case, right? What people are going to soon find out, and what we have clips of, is how quickly things are starting to change now that what they're really up to is starting to impact the lives of those people who were once chanting for them. You're going to start to see they're about to start crying because of them.
Mm-hmm. Should we go into the next clip?
Yeah, let's go into the next clip. What we got?
Title 42, Part G, in Section 265. With the approval of the President, the Surgeon General has the power to prohibit foreign immigration in order to avert the dangerous spread of communicable disease. This was enacted in 1944 and used in March of 2020 when the Trump administration issued a public health order calling for the rapid expulsion of illegal immigrants and asylum seekers to protect against the spread of COVID-19. But the borders remain open, as they have been for years. Millions of people have migrated into the U.S. illegally to cash in on the robbery of America's wealth and the destruction of our society. In April of 2021, we exposed a massive child trafficking operation being operated by the federal government in concert with Catholic charity organizations. In March of 2022, the Biden administration formally exempted unaccompanied children from being deported under the Title 42 policy. Last month, a whistleblower from Operation Artemis testified before Congress that the U.S. government has been acting as middleman in a multi-billion-dollar child trafficking black market. Title 42 is set to expire this week, and U.S. immigration facilities are already at 150% capacity. So the tens of thousands of illegal immigrants waiting at the southern border will just have to be taken care of at the expense of the U.S. taxpayer during the biggest financial crisis in U.S. history. If this doesn't make sense to you, then you need to realize that America is under attack. Last weekend, 2 separate terrorist attacks were carried out in Texas by members of the same prison gang syndicate. And if the U.S. government cared about keeping the peace and the rule of law, then this sort of activity would obviously catalyze stricter border policies. But our government isn't doing that. They are opening the borders while U.S. judges let loose violent criminals because America is under attack. Michael Yon has been reporting from the Darien province in Panama at a place known as the Darien Gap, where U.S.-funded invasion camp Lajas Blancas has been processing hordes of military-age members of the Communist Chinese Party.
Michael, can you speak more on why you suppose these are spies as opposed to simply economic migrants?
So how are all these people getting these passports? And how are they showing up with wads of cash? They have a lot of money, these Chinese coming through. They take a special route through Darien Gap. They take boat routes, and then they'll walk about 2 days through the jungle through a much safer route. It's still a little bit difficult, but it's nothing like the epic real Darien Gap route through the Mountain of Death. And all. There's actually Montaña de la Muerte, the Mountain of Death. They don't go through any of that stuff. And none of the Chinese women coming through ever report being raped. All sorts of women are raped, young and old, and children and everything else. But not the Chinese.
If this doesn't make sense to you, then you need to realize that America is under attack. In the book Unrestricted Warfare, senior military advisors of the Communist Chinese wrote that the only way for China to defeat the US is by deploying several levels of unconventional warfare. Direct military confrontation would not succeed. You can call it communism, you can call it globalism. Whatever it is, now has complete control over the US federal government and is waging war against every single American. Life as we know it is quickly coming to an end, and whether you like it or not, the option to do nothing will soon be over.
Wow. I mean, so many of our political representatives are bought and paid for. There is no way that any U.S. representative should not be acting in the best interests of this country and of its citizens and constituents, but that's not the case. It just goes to show you just how self-serving these people are, where they will sell you out for their own gain. They enrich themselves at the cost of our lives, and it's interesting because the Bible says, "What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul?" Some of the things that we're seeing, some of the things that are taking place, some of the things that that many of us don't even have the faintest idea about what's going on. You have to have no soul left to be able to turn a blind eye to these things that are happening. That's why it's such a, what other choice do we have? We don't have another choice. We do not have another choice but to say something. We have no other choice. And I just feel like we just have no other choice. With all the things that we see that are going on, it's absolutely heartbreaking. When my wife and I were putting together this material, we had to take a moment. We had to take a moment and really collect ourselves, because it's one thing to start looking at, to coming face to face with the things that you knew that were there.
Right.
But now when you start to see it and you start to realize the weight and the impact of these things, and when you start seeing faces put to the theory, right? When you start seeing the little bitty faces being put to the theories and all the tragedies that are happening, some of these people who are being used in this way, in this agenda, they're being abused on their way here, right? They're being abused on their way here, and then when they get here, it's not at all what they promised them. They then take them and put them into all kinds of sex trafficking arenas and things of that nature, and the amount of abuse that is incurred, for this on this journey to get here, it's just absolutely mind blowing. And to think that those who we have elected to represent us are co-conspirators in this demonic agenda. Let me tell you something. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but it is indeed a spiritual war. It is indeed a spiritual war. And for people who are still under the influence or the indoctrination of those who you believe represent your party the best, but yet at the same time are complicit in this satanic agenda, you need to reevaluate your sense of clarity. You need to reevaluate your disposition, because let me tell you something. If you say amen to it, it's just like being a part of it.
Yeah.
And so it's something for, one of the things we always like to do is say, okay, Lord, show us, I want to see. right? Show us, right? You know, if there's something that we're blind to, you know, open our eyes, you know. But, you know, the thing about, I just wanted to say that because, you know, that was a tough clip. It was a tough clip to watch, you know, in a lot of different ways. We are under attack. You know, we are under attack. This is subversion in the highest order, right? Our nation is under siege. Since Joe Biden got into office, it is estimated between 6 and 12 million people have come across already illegally. And I'm talking about, this is before Title 42 ended. All while they were saying, guess what? The border is under control.
Yeah, you know, as my husband said, a lot of these clips were really hard to watch.
Yeah.
And I think for both of us, it really, really bothers you to see what's happening to these children.
Yes.
Right? Because they're being separated from their parents. They're being trafficked. They're being abused. They're being neglected.
Yeah.
And there's so many parts to this immigration agenda that bothers you, right? But that has to be the first top one for me.
Yeah.
Is the abuse of the children. And so as my husband said, it's just we have to really get after these lies, because I've had enough of the devil. I have had enough of his children, and we do not consent to their agenda, to their authority, to their lies, to nothing that they do. The time has come where the Lord is putting together an army to go out here and dismantle the things that the enemy has put together.
Yes.
And so this is a part of why we are here now. And I'm just glad that we're here.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the Lord has assigned us to do this work.
Yeah. But look, so here's the thing, they've been saying this whole time. That guess what? The borders are under control, baby. They've been saying this, the borders are under control, right? And over the last 2 years, right? 6 to 15 million people have come in illegally. So the war is already started, right? We're not waiting for the war to begin. It already happened. If you don't know, guess what? The war has already begun, right? Whether you know it or not, it is already happening. And it's happening on so many different fronts, right? So many different fronts. Let's roll this next clip about how they were lying the whole time.
It is my testimony that the border is secure.
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
We have taken unprecedented action over the past year and a half to secure our border.
And we have a process in place to manage migrants at the border. We're working to make sure it's safe and orderly and humane.
The border is closed.
We agree that the border is secure.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders.
One of our highest priorities is to ensure that we have a secure border, and that is what we are doing.
The border is secure.
Yeah. So all the while they're saying the border was secure, the border was not secure.
At all.
Right? The border was not secure. Baby, you know what? You brought up an interesting point a couple of days ago about I believe it was a dream you had about Joe Biden's administration and what was going to happen during this administration.
Oh yes, it was actually a vision that the Lord had given me before he went into office.
Mm-hmm.
I had a vision of him and Kamala Harris stepping up on the podium, and everybody was cheering, clapping, happy, saying that we did it. And then very quickly it all turned and people were mourning, they were crying. And I remember that day specifically because when you woke up and I told you about it, we were both troubled.
Yeah.
Because we knew the Lord had already been speaking to us about it. And so we knew that if they had come into power, that is exactly what was going to happen. And we see it playing out right now.
Right now, which leads us right into this next clip.
Slap in the face that we as citizens of the United States of America do not have the resources and support, but you're going to bring people who are not citizens here in our community, in our buildings that we pay taxes for, that you took away from us. That is completely unacceptable.
What's important is that we really establish that this is a humanitarian crisis, and we're here.
South Shore residents responded with resounding rejection.
While this crisis may constitute an emergency for the city of Chicago, it does not constitute an emergency for the South Shore community.
Incoming migrants have overwhelmed district police stations by the hundreds.
It's my turn. It's my turn. Hello.
But city leaders could barely eke out a word of the details about a proposed respite center at the former South Shore High School.
When it comes to the total number of people at South Shore at any given point in time, it is fluid. We'd start with 250, 500.
How could you do that without consulting us?
I am concerned with safety in the area.
So what you see there is clearly dissatisfaction with the surge in immigration in these certain neighborhoods, and it's what's interesting about that is what causes one person to affiliate themselves with a certain branch, a certain political party, right? There's usually a lot of hot button topics, or that they play culture, victim, all these different things. A lot of little games they play to kind of endear themselves into certain groups. But you see the same group here now being touched by the very policies that the people who they supported, right? Because here's the thing: when you talk to these same people, when Trump was saying, hey, listen, we need to shut up, we need to close up the border, they was calling him racist. Mm-hmm. But now that border's open, and then people are invading their neighborhoods and they're being displaced.
Now it's a slap in the face.
Right, now it's a slap in the face. Nobody told us. Well, what you think was going to happen? What you think was going to happen when they opened the borders? You thought they was going to come and let them live with them? You thought they was going to allow them into the affluent neighborhoods? No. You were going to be displaced. That's what was going to happen. That's what that was meant to do, to create economic chaos or turmoil or upheaval in these lower to middle class communities, right? To stress the resources, and to cause that kind of social and economic angst that would lend to and help to create a poverty and greater collapse in these predominantly black, brown, or lower income communities. Now, what do you think would happen if these immigrants showed up in Martha's Vineyard? What do you think would happen if these immigrants showed up in these rich neighborhoods?
Well, let's take a look and see.
A bus of migrants from Texas arrived in front of the Vice President's office this morning, Vice President's house this morning. What's your response to that, to more buses of migrants being sent from Texas to Washington, D.C.?
It is a both sad and tragic day when a government official uses migrants as a pawn for political purposes.
So it's both a sad and a terrible day. Is that what he said?
I think he said tragic day.
Wow.
When the immigrants show up in their neighborhood, it's a sad and tragic day. Mm-hmm. But when the immigrants show up in our neighborhood, then it's a humanitarian project. Let's roll this next clip. I want to say something. This is a video of a mass migration of people that are on the way. It's not even talking about the people who are already here. People who are being put up in hotels and people who are being not only put up in hotels but are given are being sustained in housing, given housing and things of that nature, stipends, weekly stipends, all on our dollar, while our veterans are out on the street, while we can't, while our living costs are going up, the food supplies are diminishing, and people are finding it harder to meet their needs. We're seeing this massive giveaway. What is it about America that they despise so much that it's not about people? Because if it was about people, they would take care of their home first. The Bible says this: a man who does not provide for himself is worse than an infidel and has denied the faith. There is no government, politician, or anybody who is worth a grain of salt if they first do not have the heart. I don't care what they say, there is not a trace of anything right within them if they do not see the need to take care of their home first. You got people who have lost limbs and sacrificed greatly for this country, even though they were in questionable wars. They still went out into these wars with the belief that they were doing something defending this country and fighting for this country, yet they come back to being ridiculed, walked over, passed by in the streets. No medical care, difficult in every, it's so difficult for them to get the basic necessities, the mental care that they need, the mental help, dealing with the stresses from all of these things. And you see, and it's like, oh, I want to have love. I don't believe in any type of love when it does not first provide for your house. Your love is disingenuous, because if you can't even love the people who look like you, how can I expect you? How can I consider your love genuine, right? For those who do not. And what I mean by that is this: if I turn to my wife and I say, oh yeah, who cares about you, right? Turn to my daughters and my sons and be like, whatever, right? But then I go out there on this campaign, right? It would be a campaign of, oh, love. This is a campaign of love, but yet I've neglected my own home. How can my love be considered genuine? And that's what these people want us to understand. But see, it's these basic biblical principles that always help us identify the wolves. No matter how much they try to dress it up, the basic biblical principles help us to identify the wolves and to know who's who, and to even know what agendas that we need to follow. Because if you don't have the instinct to take care of here first, it's not to say, hey, no, let's reach far and wide. America has always been a country that has, for many years, has been the number one leader in missionaries and to various countries, preaching the gospel, taking resources. America's usually the first ones to show up, right? So that's not the issue. The issue is not about not helping, not reaching out, not doing that. No, that's not the issue. The real problem is they insult our intelligence by saying, oh, this is about humanitarian, but yet we have humanitarian catastrophes existing in our own home. That is the problem, and exposes the wolves, right? The double talk, the serpent tongue, and the demonic assignment of these absolute despicable individuals for perpetrating this against its own people.
Right. I mean, there were even people that were displaced by storms, by tornadoes.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't have a home to go to, and none of those people were even helped or provided for.
Yeah.
And there's people right now who are homeless with their children and don't have food sometimes.
Yes.
But then now they're giving people who are undocumented, They're giving them food, clothing, housing, and they're even paying for them to go to school. So how is that fair to other people who are already living here and who are in need of that assistance? It's just not fair, because there's no good in it. Anything that the devil has his hand in will never be good, because the Bible says that a good tree cannot produce bad fruit and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit.
Correct. 100%. 100%. Now let's look at this next video clip, because I think it kind of further drives home the point of the of what we were just talking about in terms of being invaded and also the kind of resources that are being provided to these other people while ours are being neglected. Let's look.
China? Hello? You go China? Hello, China? Yeah? Hello? Hello, China? Yes. China? America? Yeah. Okay. China. America? California? New York?
Oh no, no English.
No English. Peace. China? Yeah.
So what we wanted to, what I wanted to kind of highlight in this particular clip was the fact that these people are going through this processing center. And what's ironic about that is, not just even if you just discount the fact that they were of a particular age, military age, men, and they're coming in by the thousands from one of America's foreign competitors, to put it mildly. Let's just say they're not full-blown enemies, but one of America's chief competitors who has a great interest in overthrowing or subverting this country, and to buy politicians to create the policies to allow your people to come in to overthrow the government from within. That means the casualties of this war will be you and I.
Correct.
You and I. The boat has sailed on them, on a large majority of these people a long time ago. They no longer work for us. They no longer represent us, and it's been a long time since they have. They've always been a collection of self-seeking. But what we see now is a dramatic turn of events where they have prepared themselves to enter into the phase where we're undergoing a great system change. And so in order for that to take place, there has to be a destruction to America. I was touching on this earlier, which I guess we'll kind of end it with this. What is it that America represents? For many people, America has always represented the land of the free. Freedom is something that has been a hallmark and an inspiration to many people around who have lived through communism, who have lived through socialism, who have lived through totalitarianism, who have lived through all these different types of regime. And America was a place that they dreamed of, what it would be like to go to a place that where you could be free, where you could have the ideas and you could have the opportunities to go forward and with just the freedom to have the ability to work for something and build something to pass down from generation to generation. America has always been that beacon of light. There is a spirit of America that must die from this global elite's perspective. There is a spirit of America that must die, because as long as as America remains intact the way it is, it'll always be a source of hope, and it will always be a stoke, a little spark or an ember to light a fire in places who have been bogged down, for places who have been in captivity. And this is what I believe the Lord was saying to me when he says what their end goal was to change the soul of a nation. They're trying to change what it means to be America, and by bringing so many people in, you got to understand, not only are they bringing in agents of chaos, they're bringing in agents of destruction, they're bringing in pieces for their own sick agendas and games, but they're also bringing in people who will subvert, people who will purposely be allowed to be put into positions, right, on the local level, on national level, right, to begin to change policies that to the point where America will no longer look like the America you know, the America you recognize, the America that you grew up in. And for those who thought that they were victims, wait until you see the full-fledged agenda of what they have for you. You haven't even known victimization. Some people are going to go to sleep and wake up and realize the only place that they were bound was in their mind when real slavery gets to touch them, when real bondage begins to touch their lives, as they begin to see, hold up, wait a second, all the things that I was championing, all the things that I was celebrating, all the things that I was marching for, all the things that I was calling for was really the destruction of my own way of life. How foolish have I been to go along with such things, that now that it's touching my life, I feel the weight, I feel the change, I feel the restriction, and the things that I took for granted, I no longer have the space to experience anymore. And my prayer is that if you're that person, that you would begin to at least take a moment to reconsider your position, for you to take a moment to really begin to say, hold on, is this what it really is? Have I been led astray? Have I been indoctrinated? Have I been bewitched into thinking something that is not? Have I had the ability to do more than I thought I did, because I've allowed them to tell me that I couldn't. I've allowed them to put chains on my mind, and once they put those chains on my mind, they put chains on my life. And so right now you're getting ready to see that this is the result. You know, these are the things that begin to change a nation, and that's why America, like all the rest, but also I would say, dare to say, more than the rest, needed to be overthrown, needed to be subverted. They needed to change the soul of a nation. They needed to change they needed to change what America stood for. They needed to change that ideology, because that land of the free, that home of the brave, right? That home of the brave represents the spirit of America, the spirit of Americans who once rose up and fought, right, against its oppressors, and fought for freedom and declared that freedom, right, throughout its history. And so this is what they needed to change, so that mindset could be permanently erased and eradicated from anybody who would dare to hope.
And that sums it up. This is what's happening. America is under attack, and they are trying to change the soul of a nation. But remember, do not be afraid, because God is always in control.
And we are on assignment.
The San Francisco Police Department announced it has removed the U.S. citizenship requirement from its hiring process and encourages all newly eligible individuals to apply. Officials say the law was implemented because of a need to attract candidates from all communities they serve in the areas that they live in.
So non-U.S. citizens as cops, Tim. Smart?
It's San Francisco, right, Will? I mean, they're not enforcing the crimes there anyway. They might as well just have barnyard animals out on the streets just wandering around. I mean, it doesn't really matter who's not enforcing the laws in a city where crime runs rampant.
You know, I noticed that the motivation as stated in that report wasn't, hey, we're having a hard time getting cops in, we're trying our best to enforce the law, as you point out. It was to better represent the community. So in order to better represent the community, we need non-citizens patrolling the community.
Well, I guess you don't count them as illegal immigrants anymore when they're police, right? You just reclassify them and then your numbers go down?